Alright, so I mentioned in the last video that I have a new design for the inserts that I'm putting into the bottom of my metal frames to be able to thread in adjustable nylon feet on the bottom of my furniture. And I've gone through a number of different designs. I've used a bunch of different products to do this, but in the end, I really like the idea of having an insert that's all metal. It doesn't draw a ton of attention in the final piece, and it allows you to use some adjustable feet because in most situations, if somebody's putting a table on a hardwood floor, or whatever the case may be, it's nice to have feet that aren't going to scratch the final surface, and it's also nice to have adjustable feet for if the final spot that the piece goes isn't perfectly level. So I'm going to cover the feet I use, show a couple of the different components and how I'm building my foot inserts, and talk about a few of the different designs that I've used in the past that kind of led me towards this design. So first things, I order a lot of this stuff in bulk just because then I have it available for the common size that I use. These are the feet that I use. They're a nylon base. They have a chrome finish. You can also get these in black, I believe. And I order these from a company called California Casters. They're pretty good to work with. They also have a plastic insert that these work with, depending on the diameter of tubing that you want. It's pretty similar to these end caps, except it has a threaded nut in the center, and then they're hammered into the tubing. The trouble that I've found with the plastic inserts that California Caster sells, while they're nice, when you use them for a final piece of furniture that's an all steel base and a hardwood top, you have a big lump of plastic on the bottom of the leg, and I think it looks a little odd. So I don't really like using the plastic inserts for the look perspective, or from a look standpoint. And when you hammer them into the tubing, they also have a bunch of plastic shavings that come out of the edge, and you have to come back and cut those off with a razor, and I think that's kind of a pain in the ass. So for the most part, that's what led me to doing an all metal insert. There is another design out there. I call these blade inserts. I don't know what they're really called. This is for 1 inch, this is for 1.5 inches, and basically these blades tension fit and you're hammering them into the tubing. These particular ones are set up for 16 gauge. I use all 11 gauge tubing, with which I believe is the 1/8 inch wall. So if you did use these blade inserts, you have to basically grind down on a bench grinder or whatever these blades. They'll fit a little better, and I'm not real crazy about the look of these inserts once they're finally installed. So that's what led me to my design. The steel yard that I go to will give you quotes on getting different parts cut to spec, so I always order a couple of different things, just a bunch of blanks for capping off tubing, and these still will need to get cleaned up on the belt sander before I use them, but it's saving me a ton of time from having to cut 4 on the bandsaw for one piece or whatever I'm using. I can go to the box, grab them, saves me a ton of time, and it's well worth buying them because one of the things I've found with making furniture like this, there are certain things you're going to be doing that you're basically making more money on than others, and having to spend a ton of time cutting parts to make foot inserts is not one of the things you will make a ton of money on. So to kind of keep the cost of my pieces down, save a little time, still have a nice end result, I'm trying to find areas where I can plan for some of this stuff and make it go a little easier. So the other parts that go to the foot insert, which is going to be similar to this design, is I just get a box of these 1.5 inch blanks cut with a hole drilled in the center, or punched in this case, and I get a bunch of these round tubes. The idea with the OD of this round tube is that it will fit into the ID of 1.5 inch square tubing, which I use on a lot of my frames. So you're not having to weld this, you're not going to have a weld you have to grind down. The final result is going to be very clean. And basically the way I'm assembling these, and this is a scrub piece. I lost the ground on the weld on this, and it kind of got messed up. So that's why I'm using this as a demonstration. But basically what I do is I'll take a nut that matches the foot that I'm using, and make sure you're being careful with ventilation, or you're using nuts that are not coated. In this case, I am looking for some non-coated nuts to use. You could also go with a thicker plate and drill and tap it, but I find the welding's a little faster for me. What I found works is if you do 3 tacks, trying to keep them as tight as possible to the center, and I will thread a bolt into the threads while I'm welding to keep any splatter from getting into this nut. So you don't want to use your feet because it'll actually heat up quite a bit and can melt the nylon, or can, at least it seems like it deforms it a little bit. So I'll have some bolts that I thread in that are just used for assembly. And 1, 2, 3 tacks on there, tight to the center, and that's your threaded insert. Then clean your tubing up so it doesn't have any burrs. Center it onto your blank. And then what I do here, and this is very important because if you don't weld on the corners, it will not work as an insert. So I hit 1, 2, 3, 4 tacks right here on the corners. And the idea there is you're going to have enough space when you hammer these into the tubing that it will seat nicely. And I'll show some pictures of that. So basically, imagine this is all welded. All you're going to do then, fit it into your tubing, hammer it down tight, and you've got a nice all-metal threaded insert for your adjustable feet for your furniture. That's pretty much my design. That's what led me to using it, and hope you guys find it useful. Thanks for watching.